Hello, Seahawks fans. This is Brian Nemhauser at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, coming to you with another edition of the Seahawks podcast with Softy, Mahler, and your very own Brian Nemhauser, Hawk Blogger at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and Dave at
Mm.
Softy KJR on Twitter. It's a beautiful Friday, man. How are you doing?
It's a great Friday. I literally just walked off the golf course to spend time with you. A little Meridian Valley action here on a Friday afternoon. I tell you what, the range was packed. It looked like it could have been a freaking July afternoon at Meridian Valley. If you can see right there, it was just beautiful. But this is how dedicated I am to you in this segment that I walked away from that to be sitting here with you. So either A, that's total dedication, or B, I'm a complete moron.
It could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. How did you shoot? How'd you play?
Shot a 93, shot okay.
That's pretty good.
Bad. Yeah, I had some issues on the par threes, man. So the par threes, you start thinking about the par threes and you start using your brain, which my brain doesn't function properly anyway. So my buddies, my instructors always tell me, don't think, all right, because you're not that smart. Just go out and play.
Par threes are definitely, once you're playing from the big boy tees, those are the tough ones. Par fives, those are the easy ones,
Exactly.
scoring holes. So
let it bomb, baby.
yeah.
Isn't that kind of, though, like where we're at with the Seahawks season right now, and that you got 5 games left to go. 4 of them are against teams that are 13-31 combined. So all we're doing right now with this final stretch is just putting ourselves in the best position possible to get a nice backswing and then boom, follow through and smack that thing 380 down the middle of the fairway, meaning set yourselves up to have a great run come January, come playoff time. So I love where this team is at, but I just don't want to see them let their foot off the gas in these final 5 games of the year at all.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you talked about overthinking in golf. I mean, that is classically what you want to think. You want to be careful of in these games. I mean,
yeah.
Seahawks don't need to be new, different, better. They need to just work on themselves. If they just do the Eagles game, perfect example, right? That was not a great game for the Seahawks. That was not like this amazing performance, but the defense did their job. The offense did enough.
Yeah.
Come away with the victory. So, I mean, this is the time of the year and the types of games where style points are kind of what a lot of people are paying attention to. I know for you and I, it's about like, are they putting themselves in position to have a deep playoff run? That's really
it.
So obviously winning is part of that, Dave, but what besides just pure wins are you looking for right now? Like what are the things that you want, like that are going to tell you, okay, this team can go somewhere in the playoffs? What aspects of the teams are you paying attention to?
Well, really 2 for me, one on each side of the ball. And the obvious one on defense is the pass rush, but I want to see if they can do it with 4 guys, right? I want to see if they can consistently get home with 4 players and not always have to blitz Jamal Adams. And I think with Carlos Dunlap, they got a much better shot of doing that. So, I mean, frankly, look, man, if I were the Seahawks, and I'm not going to say the Giants are a pushover because they've been in almost every game they've played, for crying out loud. They're just not finishing those games. They're 4-7. They easily could be a 7-4 football team. But if Carlos Dunlap is not 100% for how important he is down the stretch, I just give him the week off, man, against the Giants. If that foot's not totally ready to go, if there's any chance he could re-injure that bad boy, I would give him the day off, because I don't know if the Seahawks, honestly, Brian, have made a mid-season acquisition that after 3 games has looked as impactful as Carlos Dunlap has. They are a totally different defensive line with that guy in there. So if he's there, I think they can get home. And then number 2, look, Pete's going to throw out these stats about combined completions and rush attempts that he claims he got from Vince Lombardi. If he's going to claim that, and he's going to talk about how important that is, and I saw you shaking your head there, but if he's going to talk about how important that is, then let's see if he sticks with that the rest of the way. I think it's been pretty obvious why the Seahawks have not been running the ball, because they just didn't trust the guys they had available. Now they do.
Yeah, I was shaking my head because, I don't know. I mean, for my day job, I spend a lot of time talking with other nerds about analytics and about data and what it means. And that's like, that's part of my job. And when you throw out some of these numbers, you end up kind of sounding like not you, but Pete ends up sounding foolish because, without getting too geeky, there is a difference between correlation and causation. And the simple way to think about it is, if something happens and they seem correlated, you have a combined 50 plus completions and rush attempts.
Yep.
And you win the game.
Yep.
That's a correlation. That does not mean that if you ran the ball 50 straight times and got to that 50 number, that there's any reason to believe that that's going to lead you to a win. There's not a causal relationship between those two.
Yeah.
So like, it is a classic case of, results-based analysis instead of actually like, it just doesn't make sense. So I cringe when Pete uses that as his like big number. That should not be the guiding light. That's a look backwards. That's a look backwards analytic to say, okay, yes, we were effective enough on offense to be good. So, I
guess just to interrupt there for a second. And I agree with you that for all of us to sit around on a Sunday afternoon and say, okay, 50 completions and rush attempts combined, and that equals a guaranteed win. That's ridiculous, right? And there's no such thing in sports. There's no such thing in life, for God's sakes. We're just talking about our golf game. You could have a perfect backswing, perfect tempo, perfect rhythm, perfect everything. But if the wind picks up, you can blow your ball halfway off the fairway into somebody else's house. So that's the goal, I think, though, when they talk about wanting that balance. There's no question about that. And they can do that now, right? I mean, we'll see about Carlos Hyde this Sunday versus the Giants, but I do think it's more of a mindset, right, than it is an actual goal. We want to try and get to this point and have it maybe in some ways influence the way we call our game. And I think that now that the defense is playing a little better, and, it's funny you brought up the Eagle game, what you want to see the rest of the way. I want to ask you, were you more kind of concerned about the offense or the defense coming out of that game on Monday? And the reason why I bring it up is because, dude, if DK Metcalf catches that touchdown pass in the corner that bounces off his chest, the offense and Russell Wilson's numbers look a lot different than they did on Monday night. So were you more kind of, cringing about the defense or the offense on Monday night?
It's been not just since Monday night. It's been for the last 4 or 5 weeks. The offense has been my concern. I think this defense I don't think this defense is capable of being great this year.
Yep.
I think
Agreed.
it's capable of being competent or even good in some cases. But this offense can be elite. And if the Seahawks are going to beat the best of the best, it's going to be on that offense to do their job really well and basically to be unstoppable, even against the best. And they haven't been that for a while. They're scuffling a little bit. And some of it's Russell, some of it's shoddy, some of it's the offensive line. You've had Ethan Posick out. You've had Brandon Shell out. Upati was out for a little bit. So I think, I don't know if you heard, if you saw the tweet I sent out, Softy, but the Seahawks pass protection had, I think, like 4 games in their first 5 weeks was like an over 70 grade on Pro Football Focus, right? And Pro Football Focus isn't everything, but it's a good indicator. They're doing well. They have not had a grade over 70 since. And their last 3 games, their pass protection's been 55. So like the pass protection to me is the real concern. Brandon Shell's not going to play again this week, and I think that's okay. But that guy's a big deal. Cedric Abuehi is a disaster. I do not want to see him out there again. Jamarco Jones should be playing right tackle for this team.
Well, I mean, I think most of what you're talking about, and by the way, you are in love with the Pro Football Focus numbers. I'm going to start calling you at Pro Football Focus on Twitter instead of at crying out loud. But you and I have we got the same line because I think they give you kind of a general guide, right? Maybe not perfect, but a general idea of how people are playing, how they're doing. I like Pro Football Focus a lot more for the hardcore data and the black and white numbers than I do the grading system. But the grading system does give you a kind of a general pathway to, kind of figuring out who's playing best. But I mean, Ethan Posick has been out. Brandon Shell has been out. Mike Upati has been banged up. So for me, all of that comes down to guys being hurt. And most of it comes down to guys being hurt and also not having a stable of running backs the way that you're used to at the exact same time. And I'm with you on the right tackle, man. I just don't think Cedric is the answer right now. Jamarco Jones, to me, may not be any better, but to me, he's worth a look starting with this game against the Giants on Sunday. And I'm with you, dude, because every Super Bowl team has to be great at something, right? Whether it's a great rushing offense or a great run defense or a great quarterback or, a great third down percentage or a great red zone offense or a great red zone defense. Like, for example, the Super Bowl team of 2005 had the number one offense, but they also had the best red zone defense in the NFL that year on that side of the ball. So what has this team been great at the last 4 or 5 weeks? What are they really, really elite at? And to me, the answer is kind of nothing in the last month and a half, and that's what I'm looking to see change in the final 5
What was super interesting about that, Dave? You know what they've been elite at for the last month and a half? Best in the NFL elite? Rushing the passer.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it's true.
Right.
They have more sacks than any other team over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And that's a good segue to talk about the injury report. I think it just came out. I don't know if you've heard, but
I did.
This is what the Seahawks list for Sunday. Doubtful: Trey Flowers, Travis Homer, and Brandon Shell. So they don't list any of them as out. That's interesting.
Yep.
Questionable: Carlos Dunlap. Questionable: 50-50 chance. Kyle Fuller, Carlos Hyde, and Damian Lewis. So those are the guys that are questionable. I don't see Chris Carson on there. That's a good sign.
Good. Yep.
But Carlos Dunlap being questionable is interesting. Trey Flowers. Can we talk about him for a second? Like, this is a guy
better
that has been one of the just disasters out there in some of the games he's played. But I was looking not at Pro Football Focus, but at Pro Football Reference, at, as best I could tell, every play he's been involved in this season. And if you look at before, I think it was week 7, he was giving up an average of 10.3 yards per play in his direction, like a first down every time you targeted Trey Flowers.
Yeah.
Since then, he's brought that down to 7 yards. And I think there's a lot of numbers showing that he's playing a lot better. You could argue he has been the best Seahawks corner this season. I think there's the Seahawks corners have not been great, so that's not a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's a good thing.
About Trey Flowers and I assume you don't think it's a big deal this weekend against Colt McCoy, but like DJ Reed slides in. What's your take on the Seahawks cornerback position?
Well, first of all, I think they better damn well have looked good last week versus Philadelphia because the Eagle offense is terrible.
Yeah.
I know you and I went back and forth on Jamal Adams, and Jamal Adams had his best coverage grade in the game since week 1 against Atlanta. Well, it came against a pretty anemic offense in Philadelphia. So when I talk about Jamal Adams and pass coverage, Brian, I'm not concerned about what Jamal Adams does against the Eagles on Monday night or the Giants or the Jets. I'm concerned about what happens when they play Green Bay or New Orleans or Kansas City in a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. So to me, that's the measuring stick. That's the bar that's been set for this football team. So everybody, throwing bouquets at this defense and Jamal Adams for what they did against J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Dallas Goedert last Monday night. Save it, all right? Let's talk about what this team does when they play elite offenses. But having said that, they had to start somewhere. And I think the confidence level of that secondary at some point was starting to wane. I think Trey Flowers' confidence level was starting to wane. And the cool thing about Trey Flowers that I like in the last month or so is that he's kind of like a baseball umpire, in some ways kind of like the offensive line, that you only call their name when they're getting torched. We haven't heard Trey Flowers' name called a lot in the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And to me, that's a good thing. And look, I think Trey Flowers, he's on death's door when it comes to his spot with this football team, right? I mean, they've given him chance after chance after chance. And it looked early in the year like he was about to be replaced and his career was about to be over the offseason. So he looks to me, Brian, like a guy that knows he's playing for a job with this roster. They bring in Quinn Dunbar for a reason because they weren't happy with Trey Flowers, right? They went out and got DJ Reed for a reason. So I think Trey Flowers has responded, and there's nothing like the threat of losing your gig and your spot on a roster to make a guy step up his game. And Trey Flowers looks to me like a guy that knew that he had to either crap or get off the pot in the last month or so. So to me, that's what all this is about.
Yeah. I mean, next week might have Quentin Dunbar back.
Yep.
Let's assume Trey Flowers is ready. Shaquille Griffin's still available. Who are your starting 2 corners?
Right now, it's Trey Flowers and Shaquille Griffin. Right now, I mean, that could change, obviously, but what's Quentin Dunbar showing you?
Yeah.
Quentin Dunbar, to me, has been one of the bigger disappointments on the football team, right? I mean, we thought looking at his numbers a year ago, and he came on our show and basically said if he played for a better football team than Washington, he may have been a little more healthy last season. To kind of wink, wink, right? So I think I thought he was going to be awesome as a right corner alongside Shaquille Griffin. I thought he was going to be a mainstay for these guys. I thought it was a steal to get Quentin Dunbar from Washington. And I think he's been a massive disappointment so far, dude. So, I mean, right now it's Shaq and Trey. How about you?
I think that's right. I think when Quentin Dunbar's healthy, I still would be giving snaps to. Here's what I would do, and I said this I think the other day on our show, but I want to see them rotate those 2 guys, Flowers and Dunbar, because the thing that Dunbar does that none of the other guys have shown they can do is he creates turnovers. Like, he hasn't done it a lot this year, but he's already shown me 3 or 4 different times anticipation where he steps in front of a pass. Sometimes he hasn't caught it, but Shaquille Griffin, even when he's playing his best, the guy's never turned around to find a ball in his life. Trey Flowers, what does he have? Like 1 interception in his career? Like, the guy's, he doesn't pick the ball off. So Quinn Dunbar is a guy that can take the ball off the other team. And I think that that's a really valuable trait. But he's been so bad in so many other ways that if I'd like to see them rotate series after series and see which guy comes out on top.
Go with a hot hand, right? I mean, dude, it's week 13 or whatever it is, week 12 of the NFL season. Just go with the hot hand, and who cares about feelings and fits and all that stuff. I mean, and you know what? Who they play Sunday may be totally different than who they play against the Jets, and maybe completely different than who gets the first start in the playoff game. So what I do like is that they have some depth there. They have some answers between the 4 of those guys. They should be able to find a combination that works if this pass rush continues to do what they've been doing.
Exactly. All right. Two more quick questions, and I'll let you get on to more important things.
Yeah, nothing's more important than this, baby. Unless they're going back to the golf course.
What exactly? One is the Josh Gordon news.
Yes.
I'm just curious. I was joking with folks. I mean, I've never seen a Seahawks player that has done less. He's got 7 receptions, as a Seahawk.
Yeah.
Captured the imagination of a fan base more. People have been just hugely excited and interested about what's going on with Josh Gordon, even throughout the whole season. How much do you think it matters? Like, end of the day, he comes back the last 2 weeks of the season. Let's say he plays in the final game of the season.
Yep.
Do you think it makes a difference? Do you think this team is going to be better because he's back?
I think it absolutely can make a difference. And I'll tell you why, because the Seahawks normally play close games in the playoffs, meaning they don't get blown out by anybody and they don't blow anybody out for the most part. Most of these games are close. They fall behind big on the road right in round 2. I know that, but then they come back and they try to find a way to make it close. Can Josh Gordon be the difference between giving the offense another drive? Can he extend drives on 3rd down with an inside slant when he's matched up against the corner who's 5'10" and weighs 190 pounds? I think about that Niner game last year. I think the game in San Francisco in overtime when Josh Gordon was gigantic. He just kept extending drives for them. So do I expect him to unseat Lockett or Metcalf or even David Moore at this point? Probably not. I mean, David Moore to me has not been great the last couple of weeks, and maybe this will make him step up his game. But I just think another target in the red zone, another target on 3rd and 3 if you want to throw the ball. I think Josh Gordon absolutely can make a difference for this football team. So, look, people are intrigued by him because he's a physical freak. I mean, look at him. They got 2 of them, right? You spent all these years looking for a guy like that. Now you have 2 on your roster in DK Metcalf and Josh Gordon. So if the Seahawks are caught in a tight game at Green Bay or New Orleans or whatever, and they're facing 3rd and 4 from their own 35-yard line with 4 minutes to go, can Josh Gordon be the difference in extending a drive? I think he totally can. And the guys like him a lot. Russell likes him. They trust him. Coaches like him. So, yes, I think if it's going to be that razor-thin margin between losing in the 2nd round and go and making the NFC Championship, can Josh Gordon be the difference in a drive being extended that ends up in a touchdown? Absolutely he can. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So what's going to happen in this game this weekend? What's your prediction? What's your final score?
Well, I'll ask you first. I feel like I'm always giving my prediction first, but I want to see if you and I are on the same page with this one.
So my read of this has been pretty consistent. Like I see Colt McCoy is likely going to start. I think that the Giants have to run the ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Their offensive line's not very good. The Seahawks pass rush has been very good lately. I think that the Seahawks, if they can get ahead early, which I expect them to do, that's going to make the Giants have to abandon the run at some point. And I think it's going to be a slaughter. I just think there's more. There are more ways, Softy, for this game to end in a blowout than there are in the Seahawks' favor than there are ways for the Giants to win it. So I think we're talking. I called it 29-3.
Yeah.
I'll stick with that. I can see the Seahawks scoring more than that, but that's what I'm expecting.
Well, I think on the list of possibilities, it's way more likely that you see a Seahawks blowout than a Giant win, for sure. I'm not concerned at all about the Hawks losing this game. I was never concerned about them losing the Philadelphia game, even when the Eagles kind of made it close there in the second half. But I just think that, look, the Seahawks don't blow anybody out, right, in the regular season. They're usually good for one a year, and maybe this is the game where they just thump somebody at home on Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon. But the Giants, man, the games they've played, almost every single one of them have been really, really close. 2 points, a 10-point win, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, 1 point, 3, 8-4. They've been in every single game they've played this year. And you combine that with the fact the Hawks really don't hammer anybody. Look, dude, this game could be 29-3 in the fourth quarter, and the Seahawks could win 29-24, which is the way they do things, which is exactly the way the Eagle game went, right, on Monday night. They had the line covered. It was done. It was over. And they allowed them to sneak back in the game. So I think we're going to feel really comfortable throughout the game. I just think the final score will look a little closer than what you're saying.
And so it will be what?
They'll win. I think the Seahawks will 24-20, 24-20 win. But you'll do it. They could be up 24-10 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And this thing could be over. And they can find a way to, make it close. Just because that's what they do.
I will tell you, Softy, I think this is going to be the game where the Seahawks get their first defensive touchdown of the game.
All right.
Of the season.
I'll take it. So, actually, you know what? I won't take it. Save that for the playoffs. Save that for the – How many do I get? How many defensive touchdowns do I get this year?
As many as you want, baby.
Okay, well, then have at it. But if I'm only getting one, I'm saving that for the postseason. By the way, do people realize that this microphone doesn't even work? This is just a prop. You guys know that? See that? You still hear me? See, it's fine. See, bring it back over here. Yeah.
All right, Softy. Hey, well, thank you for coming on. Always good to see you. And for folks that haven't already, join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get access to our Slack channel right now. $5 gets you in. It's easy. It's a great gift as well. Buy it for a year for somebody. All that's possible. Click the subscribe
button. By the way,
great
job, Simply Seattle hoodies you guys did.
Yeah. Yeah, we if you haven't already, go to Simply Seattle too. They've got great hoodies, and you're giving away free meals to the needy for all the hoodies being purchased. So,
and did I hear that Evan would delete his Twitter if you guys sold 100 of those? Because I'll buy 100 myself just to get them off Twitter.
Yeah, I think you should do that. I would tell you that Evan is not exactly the best when it comes to coming to
living up to his word.
Living up to his word on bets.
Gotcha.
But yeah, click subscribe, click like on the video, please, and click the little notification bell. You'll get notified anytime we go live. Until then, go Hawks, and we'll talk later this weekend.
Go Hawks. Happy Hanukkah, by the way.
Happy Hanukkah.